Are all the levels recorded right? I don't know what that means.
Sounding good, looking good. Camera people.
All right.
Camera people, those
We
are
look
my
good?
people. Camera people. Yeah, there we go.
All right. There's some feedback. There's some boom. Is that just because I'm
We're a little close.
a little...
We're a little close.
You want me to get real close to the mic?
Yeah, so he doesn't have to push your faders up, you know what I mean?
This is awkward.
Man, you really can't see faces. I never realized how...
That's what I'm talking about, bro. When I'm up here, I'm like,
I'm like-
at our night service, I'm like, where?
I see figures, but not faces. It's kind of weird. I see you.
All right.
Hi.
Hey, so this is something, I don't know what to do, dude. I'm so used to holding the mic. So anyways, this is something, we've never done this before, which is a phrase we say quite often here at Rhythm Church because we're still pretty new, but we've never done this. We thought this would be a great opportunity though for to record a live.
I can't get over it, sorry.
You can't look at it, dude.
It's a lot, you know?
To record a live podcast, and that way, to get some, audience participation. So here we are recording a Rhythm podcast with a live studio audience, but it's not really a studio. It's like we're in a sanctuary, live sanctuary audience.
We have like laugh tracks, so if we make a joke and you guys don't laugh, Patrick,
he's
drop
gonna
the
hit
laugh
it.
tracks, dude. And if deep points, they'll be like, ooh. Yeah, exactly.
So we're gonna dive in. For those of you guys who don't know me, I'm sure a lot of you do, but my name is Jeff. I happen to be the lead pastor here at the church, and this is.
My name is George.
Oh yeah, no cheers for me. That's great.
Laugh track.
My name is Jeff. Dead silence. My name is George. Whoa! Woo!
I paid them all $20 to do that. So. Hey, I appreciate that. My name is George. I'm on staff here. My official title is creative pastor. I know a lot of you guys some different things, so that's it. That's who I am. I'm
That's
George.
who you are.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk about purpose. And again, kind of just the way actually we segued into this with the song, we'll make room for you, you do whatever you want to do. And
That's good.
I think a lot of times today when we think about purpose, we think about calling, career, so on and so forth, we do so more from the standpoint of what do I want? Like what are my dreams? What are my desires? What can I do? What can I achieve? All of that stuff. And so we're living in a day and age right now that 50 years ago, by the time you were 24, you had it all figured out, really. You either graduated high school and entered right into the workforce, whether, you just went right into career, or you went through the 4 years of college, graduated, then went into the workforce. Today, not so much.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Not so much. Today, the realms and possibilities are kind of endless, and so with, I don't know if you guys have ever gone to a restaurant, like maybe say Cheesecake Factory, and it's got a freaking novel for like a menu, and you're like, what do I even want? What do I pick? It's hard, right? It's hard to figure it out. But when you go to say In-N-Out,
yeah, exactly.
you got like 3 choices, and that's really it. Today we live in a, what do you want type world, and
It's wide open.
And each of us actually have the way that we've discovered our purpose, calling, career, so on and so forth, isn't necessarily the traditional way. So George, why don't you talk a little bit about how you became who you became?
Well, who I am, that's an interesting thing. So I think ultimately I grew up in, who's a 90s kid? Who's early 90s, early, mid-90s? You guys are my people. So we grew up in a very interesting time where we're kind of in between. We've had a lot of the social media stuff happen in our lives, but we also played outside for a big part of our childhood. So we know a little bit of the remnants of the world you spoke of, but also we know how to use Twitter. You know what I mean? It's cool.
I can use Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. I follow you and you don't tweet, so it's okay. So I grew up in a space where there was obviously a lot of traditional people kind of going before you're out, college, different things like that. And there was that pressure to do so. There's a pressure to go to, a big school, get a 4-year degree, that whole jam. but there are also people who were kind of just jumping out of high school and kind of doing their own thing. And so I was chasing kind of that college route, had a plan, and then I met Jeff, and he talked me out of that plan. And now I'm on staff with him 10 years later, so
It worked.
we'll see who won that one. But yeah, obviously you gotta know what's right for you. You gotta know how you're wired, know like what your, just how you're wired and what's gonna be best for you. And that can be hard at 18, 19, 20 years old. Like,
It could be hard at 30-something.
that's true. And so you're just trying to figure it out, and everyone's making decisions in real time, and you're trying to do that as well. And so I came up in that. It's a long story, but like a month before I was supposed to go across country to Virginia to go to school, unenrolled from school. It's crazy. I had all my dorm rooms, all that stuff picked out, was ready to go to school, getting ready to drop a lot of cash for school. I was actually getting ready to go into the military. That's how committed I was to this plan. And like had all of my plans. When I talk about a 90-degree pivot that happened all like within a month span, and God and Jeff completely ruined and wrecked all of my plans, and so now I'm here. And so, for those of you guys who don't know, a lot of my background is in film and video, and so that's like where I reside. I do that for churches. I do that for commercial space. I do that for anyone who will pay me, and so, just kidding, but not really. And that's where I reside now, but if you just saw me or met me 10 years ago, completely different from the track I was on.
I think one of the most important things really, as we're trying to figure out, I have to hold it, as we figure out what is even purpose. You know what I'm saying, dude?
I feel the power.
You feel that? And right now,
it's
you
cool.
know what I'm talking about, bro. My purpose is to hold the microphone. Come on, somebody. Because I think sometimes purpose, we can mix purpose up.
Yeah, that's good.
We can think like our purpose is, our job. And a lot of times your job isn't necessarily your purpose. Your job can work into your purpose.
That's really good.
But it isn't necessarily your purpose. Your purpose is greater. And of course, as believers, if you're in here and you'd call yourself a Christ follower, we have the grand purpose of seeing the world won to Christ. We have the Great Commission, Matthew 28, to go and make disciples. Like that, in some way, shape, or form, needs to be a part of our purpose. Like George isn't just going to create film because he likes to create film. He's got a grander purpose within that. And so how you discover that is, I think, ultimately, I don't know, have you guys ever heard, this might make me sound old, but the saying, you can't steer a parked car? That ultimately, it's in the process of motion and of moving and of doing that you begin to discover things.
Right.
For me, personally, I was going to a four-year university, Western Washington University, go Vikings. Actually, I don't even know if that's I don't even know if that's their mascot, whatever. But it was at a worship service that the Lord spoke to me kind of about the trajectory of my life. That, as far as being a pastor, so on and so forth. It was really an environment very much like this that I received a vision from God. And I had a choice at that moment to go, no, I still want to go be a history teacher, move down to North County, San Diego, and spend my summers off and, just enjoy, the good life. Or I can dive into a completely, I had no idea what ministry was. It was like a blind path. It's the Abraham, get up, leave your country, and I'll show you eventually where I'm going to take you. But I think part of this discovery process comes twofold. One is actually being in process of doing something, and God will speak to you. And then secondly, it's then being willing to move when he tells you to move, right. To do something when he tells you to do something, to not go over to the East Coast, spend $100K a year on school, and do an internship.
Yeah, seriously.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's cool because you talk about that. Like, my story isn't so much of like having that moment where God was like, this is what you're going to do,
right?
And there's a lot of people in this room where that's probably also the case. You don't have that like maybe audible moment with God, but like, I think a big part of it, and this isn't supposed to sound like a plug for the church, but like serving and being in spaces where you're serving other people and like you talk about steering a parked car. I think so many times like I see people and they have big dreams and big aspirations and they're like waiting for it to all come in a moment. And it's like, get in spaces where you can serve and move and just kind of like get in motion, and you'll start to find there's things that you gravitate toward and things that you have passion for that you didn't know. Like I said, 10 years ago, I hadn't even touched a camera before. And I wasn't necessarily, like, I didn't have this plan, like, this is where I'm going to be. I definitely didn't have this plan, but I didn't have, like, a plan of, like, I'm going to be a filmmaker, you know? And so I think just when it started off being an intern, and I was like, yeah, I'll do whatever. You know, I'll move chairs, I'll do this, I'll do that. And, you know, and again, that can be in a church space. That can be in other spaces. It's not like a plug for, like, join a team. That's not what this is. But, like, you know, like, being in spaces where you're in community and you're in service and you're around people who have different, you know, passions and movements, and you'll start to see yourself gravitate towards, oh man, like that's really cool. I really like the way, okay, I want to try that. I want to do that. And your passions can either be like inspired right away, or they can be developed over time.
So it is one of those things, once you discover what it is that you feel like is a grander purpose in your life, and maybe even the giftings that correlate with it, then there's the process of development.
Yeah.
Development. So for you would say your development process was serving, it was internship, it was like, take us through your education in a sense.
Yeah, so my education. So I went to the School of Hard Knocks, you know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah, at YouTube University, okay, got a degree. Yeah, you know, you gotta know yourself. I said that earlier, being wired a certain way. So being around people and like I'm a very like tactile learner. So I was like started being on sets, started carrying gear for people, all this kind of stuff. And so just being around people was how I started to learn again. I was like, man, I really enjoy this. I really enjoy this area of creating. And so development sometimes can be like, you know, again, like I said, or sometimes it can just be being around certain situations, certain environments. And yeah, I mean, I hustled, like, you know what I mean? I wasn't gonna go to school, and I wasn't gonna pay all this money for, especially film school, because it is expensive. And so it was like, hey, yeah, like, I'll come on set and I'll hold all the gear for like $50. Like, sure, whatever it takes. Or, you know, I'll do this, I'll do that, you know, like, I'll do I probably worked the first year of video stuff, and I don't think I made a dime. And like, that was how I was like, I'm wired for this, because even though I didn't make any money, lost money, I loved every minute of it, and I was like, I can't wait to get back on set. I can't wait to get, you know, have another day of shooting. I can't wait to edit this. And, you know, I would make videos and people were like, dude, that sucked. And I was like, I know, but like, I want to get better at this, you know, like, no joke. I remember my very first video playing in a venue, and I'm like hyped. I'm like I sit up all night editing this video, and I'm in the booth and it's playing, and someone goes, dude, who made this video? It sucks. And I was like, oh, you know, but like, I loved it. Like, I loved every moment of doing it. And was like committed to getting better and developing that skill set. It was Jeff that said it. He was in the
No, I did not, dude. I was like, I know who made it. What video was that, dude?
It was a girls' color war.
Oh, girls' color
video.
video.
Bad.
Oh, Lord. Okay. There is, I think, you know, part of it with you figuring out your passion. I mean, your purpose, there's that passion behind it, but not always.
Yeah.
Like I know for me, developing as a pastor, as a leader, as a communicator, there were times I didn't like it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So what do you do when you don't like it? You know what I mean? Like, because I think, honestly, like, too, I think one of the things that's very hard for people is to continue on when they lose passion for something.
Oh, that's good.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think
ready.
that we,
Come on.
like, if I'm not feeling it anymore, I'm not going to do it anymore. And, you know, like,
Yeah.
I've talked to so many people that whether it's they bought the this, that, and the other thing in order to make it happen. They bought the camera, they bought the surf,
Yes.
I don't like it anymore, so I'm not going to do it anymore. So how do you lock into, I guess you could say, discipline.
Yeah, I'm gonna step on some toes here. All right, here we go. So I think someone said do it. I think so I talked about my generation, 90s, right? And I think what I've seen, and this isn't like a bash on age groups or whatever, but what I've seen, especially I think with people my age and even getting a little bit younger, I think because of social media and different things like that, like people want things so fast. Like the microwave culture thing is so true. Like it's like you follow someone and you're like, dude, look at the way they sing or look at the way they do this or that, and and it's like you want to be like you want their platform, and like you just started.
Ooh, you want their platform, but you don't want
you
their
haven't put in the work and you haven't put in the time. And so like discipline is one of those words that has become like a dirty word nowadays. But it is the cornerstone of you taking your passion from like the starting point and then getting to where you want it to be. And most people that I see wash out is because they don't have the discipline. And most people that I've seen who crush it and are succeeding in their space, it's because they have the discipline. And almost everyone that I've seen that had like this quote unquote made it, you know what I mean? Like they have a story in a season where they're like, dude, it did suck and it wasn't great. And like, I wasn't making money and my kids are, like all this stuff is going on. And like they had the discipline to stick through it and to go, I understand my purpose, and we talked about that a little bit. Like when you understand your purpose and your end goal and what God has placed within you, your discipline is what will carry you through all the hard times to get you there. But most people don't have a discipline because most people want that. They want it now.
They want it
You know what I
quick.
mean? And
Yeah.
so like, it's like, I mean, I've done it. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I want to play piano. I want to be like Adele. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And then like you get like one wrong note, you're like, never mind.
I'm
I
not
don't
doing
wanna
this
do
anymore.
You know what I mean?
You want me to practice? What? No.
For sure.
No, for sure. I think that kind of to add within that, so much is developed in community. And when you are constantly hopping from community to community to community,
That's good.
you never get roots, and then therefore you never build trust, so therefore you can never receive critique, or you can never be built up.
Yeah.
Or and a lot of times people leave community when community gets hard.
Sure.
Just like, you leave all that stuff. But I feel like for me personally, one of the things, and again, I'm sitting like in the,
That's good.
you're always being developed, but I'm sitting more kind of in like been doing this a while now,
Sure.
So like if I change careers now, it's going to suck. But but I was able to be developed in community because like every job I've had for multiple years. The first place I pastored at, I was there for 10 years. The last place I was there for 8.5 years. It's, I've had friends in my life for decades that I've done this with, I've ran with for a long time in order to kind of help develop and help critique and help grow the different skill sets that I need in order to fulfill the purpose that God has placed on my life. And I think that, again, this is a cultural thing. I don't think it's an age thing. I don't think it's a generation thing. I don't think it's like, well, these Gen Zs, they just don't know how to stay put anymore.
Is it Gen Z now? I don't even know who it is.
It's Gen Z.
Is it?
It's millennial Gen Z, and then the next one is
COVID.
whatever.
Group.
Young. They're really young. But
Sorry,
like there is a cultural thing where
for sure.
where people we don't like commitment at all anymore.
Well, I even think, even just you speaking to it, I think what it is, it's people's resistance to pain. We're taught that when something gets painful or difficult, it's time to put it down. And that's, I think ultimately, like that's where discipline is. Like, I mean, the quintessential like example is like, you want to work out, you want to build muscle, you want to run faster, whatever you want to do. Imagine if every time you like lifted weights and every time it hurt, you decided, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like you're just not going to build muscle. You're like, I want to run farther. Okay, every time your legs hurt, I don't want to quit. And it's like, because it's been ingrained in us in so many different areas of like to avoid pain. And that's the same thing when you talk about communities. Anytime this community hurts me, I'm out of here.
Right.
Instead of digging in and going, no, like I'm going to persevere through this. I'm going to work. There's a lesson to be learned in like having healthy confrontation with people.
That's good.
And you know what I mean? And there's lessons to be learned there. And if you don't learn those lessons in that development stage of sticking through it, then if ever you actually get the platform, you'll fall apart. because you didn't learn the lesson of how to confront people or how to work through difficult situations, stuff like that. So I think a lot of it too is just our, just our innate desire. I don't know where that comes from, but we just want to avoid pain and difficult situations.
Right. There's so much in building character. And I think sometimes what happens is we work more on our gifting than we do on our character. And when you have more gifting than you do character, you're setting yourself up for a fall.
So good.
And that, and I've met a lot of people where just naturally their gifting will far exceed their character
And their platform.
And their
Yeah,
well, then they end up getting a big platform. When you have a big platform, where a lot of people can see you. Maybe you end up managing. You have a natural gift of leadership, so you're managing this, that, or the other store, business company, or whatnot. But like you don't have the character.
Yeah.
That in a sense loves the people you're managing. You don't have the character that when you're faced with a situation of I can be dishonest and gain, or I can be honest and lose. Yeah. Like character says, I'll be honest and lose.
For sure. One of my favorite stories in the Bible, and I think it really was kind of something that I read often, especially in these last 10 years of working, was a story of when David's anointed king. He's anointed king to be Israel. We all know that story. He's anointed. The prophet goes out, he's looking for who's going to be the king. He goes to all the brothers, no. And then he gets to David, like, no, he's the one. And he anoints him to be king. He goes off, kills the giant. And then he's like, he's king. But like, we don't realize that there was I think it was 12 years in between of when he was anointed to be king and then when he actually became king. And so there's so much in that even if you I know this is what I want to do one day, this is what I want, there's a process of kind of that waiting and that character forming season that becomes so vital. And if you skip that, and I've seen that. Some people do, they find a way to skip it, they make it. And then like you said, their character outgrows their platform.
They lose it. Do you guys have any questions as we're going along here? Any questions?
If you did, I couldn't see them.
So. I know. Now I know why Adam was doing this right here. It was just.
Oh,
yeah, Jack, question.
I think I see a lot of people these days thinking that their passion has to equal their career. What do you think about that?
That's far.
What about, okay, so the question is, we're doing this so that the podcast can hear the question, repeating it. Does your passion have to equal your career? No.
Definitely not. Yeah, I don't think so at all.
No, because, here's the other thing. I think that the myth that we're living in today is whatever you love, you can make money at. And that's not always true.
True.
Jack, you're a photographer, right? You're really good at what you do, so therefore...
So good.
So good.
There's pictures of, not you, but pictures you've taken
I'm such a fanboy.
Here in the booth. That was weird.
I want signed prints from you. It's
You're
amazing.
so good, dude.
You're amazing. But I'm a fan. I love you. No, but but a lot of times, your passion can be photography, but you're not good enough to make money at it. So that's not your deal. So continue to have a passion, side project, stuff like that, help out, do whatever. But also too, you have to pay the bills.
100%. Yes.
I'm so tripped out right now by in this era where everybody's quitting their jobs. I don't know how you guys are making money. Rent's due for me. Every first of the month, rent's due. The bills are due. We need power in my house. My kids got to take showers. So I don't know. I'd be you know what? I'm just gonna quit and travel the world. I don't know how y'all do it. I don't know.
It's that credit card debt.
Sometimes you got to learn a trade. You know what I'm saying? And work.
For sure. And I would also say, don't limit your purpose to a title.
That's good.
You know what I mean? Okay, this is gonna get weird, but if someone cut off my hands and gouged out my eyes, and I couldn't make films anymore, my purpose isn't over. You know what I mean? Ultimately, maybe the way that I achieve, my purpose obviously changes, but I'm not purposeless. I'm just handsless. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. But that was.
What a weird analogy, bro.
I don't know. I'm sorry. You gave me the mic, so I don't know. Dude. But and this is I didn't. I'm going to say this. I didn't really clear the story, so I don't know if it's okay. But I've got a really good friend of mine right now who's 23 years old, just got diagnosed the 3rd time with cancer yesterday. And this guy is incredible. He's an incredible artist, a creative musician, just one of the best people I know. He's been an intern of mine for coming up on 7-8 years. Just incredible guy, but he's got cancer 3rd time diagnosed yesterday. And like he's not able to do the stuff that he's like really gifted at to do. And like I had a phone call with him, and he's like, it's like it doesn't faze him. He's like, no, but there's nurses in the hospital that I get to talk to and tell them about Jesus. Right. And like there's doctors that like, you know, they've been my doctors for the past 1.5 years. And like I know them and their family, and we're gonna go talk and like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just the perspective of like, well, if he's like, well, now I don't get to be an artist or a musician anymore, like my purpose is over. No, it's not. You know what I mean? And like I think for sure there can be a correlation between your passions and your job and your purpose. And I think there's wisdom in like trying to, you know, like chase after your passions to a certain degree. But I think tying your title, your job, whatever it is, to your purpose, I think is really dangerous. And I think you see that happen, and people lose their job, and they're like, what do I do? And it's like, oh, go get another job. And like your purpose, whatever that is that God has instilled in you, like that continues. It just might look different in the next season.
The idea of this has to make me happy.
Yeah.
Is it's a fallacy, and it's one that's perpetuated by the world, especially by culture right now, because ultimately our joy, our worth, our value is not found in a position. It's not found in what we do. That like I've worked jobs that are nasty, that I've hated, but at the same time found so much joy in my life during those times.
Yeah.
And so it isn't always. I think it always comes back again to what is our ultimate purpose? Again, to see the lost come to Christ. What is the passions that I have? Do they line up? Am I able to make money at it? Am I able to do this? Am I able to like build a kingdom as I do this? Awesome. If not, you still have your ultimate purpose.
My mom used to always say, she would say, if you're chasing happiness, you'll always be chasing. And it's like that idea.
I love your mom. She's awesome.
I love my mom too. She's pretty rad. But she would say that. She would say, if you chase happiness, like you'll always be chasing. And it's funny because we live in a generation where people say it all the time, like chase your happiness, and it's like one of the most. I mean, depression's wildly up and all these different things, and that's not, you know, it's not to like criticize, but it's just the idea of like, oh, if I'm gonna chase my happiness, and there's a difference, and you said that there's a difference between happiness and joy. And you know, if you're gonna try and find happiness in a job, in a spouse, in you know, a certain paycheck amount, whatever it is, you'll never, ever get it.
No. Any other questions? Yep.
If I've decided I barked up the wrong tree on a certain purpose, and tried a couple times, at what point is commitment? When should I turn around and try something else?
That's a great question. Okay, so when you've, so when you've, the way you put it, barked up the wrong tree a couple of times, when do you basically decide to call it quits, or when do you say, no, I'm committed to this, I'm gonna make this happen? That's why it's important to have community around you, because they can speak into it as well. You know what I'm saying? It's like if George,
that's honest.
Yeah, communities that's honest, that you can trust and that you can love.
Sure.
If George keeps making the color war videos like he did, and he's like, no, man, I'm in this. Like, I'm in this. He made me creative. Like, there comes a point where it's like, George, I love you, bro.
You gotta stop.
You gotta stop,
for
man.
Sure. That's good.
You gotta stop, bro.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, totally.
It's time to, do something else. And so I think having those people around you that can speak to that is all. Because some might go, no, dude, you need to just put your head down and keep rolling on this, because there is that thing of you're going to get a lot of, depending upon the career and so on and so forth, you're going to get rejected a lot.
And can I say something else to the community? Like, I think it's why it's important in community to have mentors and people who are ahead of you in the space that you want to be. I have a lot of community that's like my boys, right? And so we say a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? And it's cool. But I also have people in my life who I'm like, in 10 years, I would love to be where you are. And so those people, when my boys say stuff, it's cool. But sometimes when those people, that carries more weight because I know like they've been there, done that. You know what I mean? And so if they go, yeah, you don't have it, or you might want to tweak it or change directions, you know, that would even overrule if my boys are like, nah, man, you're good. You know, so yeah, I think having community and having like mentorship is also super important.
That's huge, yeah. Any other
I
questions?
feel like I'm like
Oh,
scarring
yeah,
my
yeah.
corneas up here.
You guys talked about like the importance of building character, and like kind of experiencing less time with that. What would you like to say what the ways to build character are?
What are ways? I'm sorry. What?
Ways of building character.
Ways of building character.
What are ways of building character?
It can't be fast tracked. That's the first thing I would say. I think it can't be fast tracked, and I think a lot of that has to happen to some degree over time. You know what I mean? And we do try and fast track that a bit. That's a great question. How to build character?
Ultimately, it comes through living life, by how you handle the successes and how you handle the failures. You know, like again, I think sometimes it's even actually harder sometimes to handle success
Yeah.
than it is even to handle failure. And so when everything is, you know, going well for you and everything is good, are you still, are you remaining humble? Are you, and again, it goes, not to like harp on the community aspect thing again, but again, it comes from having people around you that can speak into your life, that can tell you when your head's getting a little bit too big, or that can encourage you in the hard times, you know, to not get too down on yourself, that can call you out on different sin issues maybe that you're diving into. I mean, that's a massive one. If you have people that can like tell you like, hey, man, you know, you got to knock this off. This is going to be detrimental to you in the long run. And then ultimately seeing how you handled it. I think some like character can be built, but a lot of it just comes down to, well, character, yes, character can be built, but I think there is a certain level of just, what's the word, genuineness that you're going to hold. Like you got to want character.
It's a resolve.
Yeah, it's a resolve. Like you got to want to have good character.
Yeah.
And be willing to do what it takes to be called into my pastor's office when I'm 24 because my gifting far outweighs my character, and for have him like basically blast me. Like if you read like the word rebuke in the Bible, like this was a nuclear rebuke. I left like a puddle of a human. Probably was a little bit borderline abusive. I don't know, but anyways, but ultimately, what it did though is it formed me. I had to go, yeah, wait a minute, like this isn't good. I am getting prideful.
Yeah.
I am a little bit arrogant. I have to admit that to myself. I don't know.
I think just to tie that up, I think submission is really important. Like submitting to leadership. Like submit's another one of those words where we becomes a dirty word sometimes, but the humility to be able to walk into a pastor's room, to take the rebuke, to not leave, and to go, I'm going to change, that is character. If you don't have character, you're going to go, you'll make an excuse. Well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. F this guy. You know? I don't know. Can I say that on stage? Sorry.
Well, you did.
Yeah, sorry,
I mean,
my bad.
I don't know if you can, but you did it.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And like, I've seen that. I've seen cats be like, man, I'm gonna do it my own way. And ultimately, again, you can, but like, that's you choosing your own way to do so. You know,
Yeah.
so I think submission is really important. Like, I think submitting to authority, and even sometimes submitting to authority you may not always agree with.
100%.
Like, I've had bosses all the time where I did kind of think they were. I'm sorry, never mind. But like, no, sorry, I'm sorry. Like, I've had people where I'm like, oh man, like, why am I listening to you? And it was because I had committed to submission. Because ultimately, I didn't ever want to be in a space where I was the one making those calls, and I didn't have anyone to answer to. Accountability in that regard. So I think submission, I think like
That's a huge one.
It's a huge thing.
No, I think submission is huge, especially if your boss is always wrong. Like if you always have like, if you're always like, oh, he doesn't or she doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the boss and you're not.
True.
I mean, if you were really smarter than them and better than them and more gifted than them, then you'd probably be them. But you're not them.
You're not. And again, my
So
favorite,
learn from them.
The reason why I love that story of David is because he had to submit to Saul the
Saul.
king, who was trying to kill him. Like, that's such a wild, like, concept. And I think, again, just that idea of him submitting, and, like, that was what Saul, the prophet had told him to do. Like, that, you know, again, I just speak.
But no. But so side note, there's always going to be a time for submission. And then we're going to take one more question, and we're going to worship some more, and then you guys can go to Best Pizza or wherever you go. But no, because like I think there's this part of us that goes, okay, I'll submit until I'm king. But even when David was king, he still submitted to the prophets.
So good. Come on, Jeff.
And so, even though I'm lead pastor, I'm still submitted to my board of overseers and to other men of God in my life. And so, like, that submission never ends.
And if you don't build that small, if you don't build that...
If you don't build it, if you don't build it, it's like that saying, if, you know, like, well, I'll give when I'm rich. Well, if you don't give when you have little, you're not going to give when you have much. If you're not going to submit when you're at a lower level, you're not going to submit when you're at a higher level.
That's solid. That's really good.
That was good, George.
Question is for George.
No.
Can you tell us all your life experiences driving a forklift?
Oh, no.
And
Okay.
was back then women or men?
No. Okay. I will say this. I've had a lot of jobs. I've been fired from a lot of them for many different reasons, including driving a forklift through a bay door. But that's neither here nor there. I persevered, and I'm here now. And I'm still OSHA certified.
All right. Maybe one more after that one. Yes.
What are your recommendations when you've been doing like one type of career for a really long time to break out of that and go into something completely different?
Because you want to switch careers? Is that why you're saying that?
Yeah, so my example is I've been doing customer service since I was 18 and I despise it, just because of people.
I feel a little judged right now because I've walked through your line before.
Well, then it makes sense now.
Yeah,
then it makes sense.
totally
now,
makes
for
sense.
sure.
You're like, there's some bosses I don't like, and then you're like, I hate being a customer service person. Just need the common denominators.
Pastor Jeff kept coming through and getting free samples, dude.
I love free samples. Sorry, go on.
But I have an associate's, but I don't have like a bachelor's, and so I don't really have like experience doing anything except like food or retail or that kind of area. And I definitely don't want to be doing that the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know, it's fine for now, but I don't really know how to break into the career that I want without getting a degree. And I feel like there's such pressure nowadays to get a degree in
Yeah.
order to
Yeah.
do, and that's just, I think that's ridiculous.
That's good. It's a lot of questions. That's
Yeah,
a good
so-
question. It's a good question. though.
So the question is, how do you switch? Basically, how do you switch careers? How do you switch what it is you're doing? If your field, you get jobs a couple different ways. One is you get the education, you have the degree, and so therefore you get hired, right? The other is you have the experience, you have a rear view that shows that you kill it in whatever field that you're doing, and then therefore you get hired, right? For instance, my dad was an art broker for years, sold art. He had no degree in art, but he just knew how to sell, and he could sell really well. And because of that, he was able to like climb in the ranks, and nobody cared what his college experience was. They just knew that he could manage art galleries and so on and so forth and sell a lot of stuff. And with a lot of the jobs, and like when I get a speaking engagement or stuff like that, they don't go, well, where did you get your Bible degree from? They just go, they've looked at past stuff. Does that make sense? So that's one way. If you are in a field though that does require the schooling, you got to go to school. You got to do it. You know, unfortunately, because there are still, or maybe fortunately, there are still career paths that require You know, like if you're going to become a journeyman carpenter, you still have to put in the hours. You can't just be like, look, I've done a lot of woodwork with my friends.
Yeah.
You know, and I built a house with my dad one time. You know, you have to like put in the time to do it. And so unfortunately, there is that time of like, well, but what I would do is I'd say be strategic in doing it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Be strategic and wise. Like, okay, I know I want to flip careers, so I need to make sure that I have the money necessary that allows me the time necessary in order to get the experience necessary.
And even on top of that, I would say before you like, if you're in a field where it's like, yeah, I need to go to school, I would jump on some type of like internship or just get involved in that field in some way, shape, or form, even if it's at the very, very bottom, because you don't want to go.
Volunteer.
Yeah, volunteer, do whatever. Like most people, I mean, again, it kind of depends on the field, but if you hit up someone who's good at that field and go, hey, can I just come and shadow you or intern you or like, I don't know, answer phone calls. Most people will be like, yeah, I need something or whatever. So I would do that before you spend a lot of time, energy, money to go to school, and then you get down that path and you realize, this isn't quite what I want to do. You know what I mean? So I would try and find ways, even if it's like on the outside fringe of that area that you want to be, get involved in some way, volunteer, intern, you know, I don't know, hold papers for somebody, and just figure out for a season of like, do I want to really get into this field?
I think one of the most, that's huge. Volunteering is huge. Like meeting with people that are in that field, like go, like spend the, you know, well now it's like $10 to buy a cup of coffee, but like the $10 to like sit down and say, hey, can I ask you some questions? Can I get into this? Could I help? You know, I think sometimes we want to be paid to do things when, I mean, you're going to be paying for an education anyways. I mean, like part of my story is I wasn't paid full-time in ministry until I grew a youth ministry to 150 people. I was making $7,000 a year learning how to be a pastor. You know, volunteering, again, probably a little abusive, but anyways, but like, you know, like but that got me so much education and experience and really kind of shows that if you're in it for the love, you know, am I in this for the love? Am I going to do this?
Yeah, that's good.
Let's all stand to our feet. This is on, yeah. Man, there's endless possibilities. There's so much stuff that can be done. There's so many different ways to do it. And kind of like, you know, what we said tonight, it all comes down to ultimately, you need to hear from God. That it's worth taking the time, again, whether you're in your early 30s right now or in your early 20s or wherever it is that you're sitting, just to take that time to really lean into God. What do you have for me? And it's amazing, sometimes he comes back with, you pick, you go, you do. Sometimes he's very specific. And that's the great thing, is there's no one size fits all in any of this. There's principles that we can take. There's, of course, wisdom to be had. But it always comes down to, Lord, what is it that you want? So, Jesus, we come right now. And I thank you that within this room, there's people that know the trajectory that they're on. They know what it is that you've called them to. They know with precise clarity what their passions and what their purposes are. And then others were just out here floating in the sea trying to figure it out. And so, God, we just pray that you would continue to reveal yourself more and more, again, to those that have everything dialed and to those that don't. God, we thank you that each of us are on a journey, that we're on a journey with you. And we're on the journey to grow and to be deployed in your service to reach a lost, hurt, and dying world. So, Father, we submit ourselves to you. We submit our dreams to you. We submit our desires to you. And it's in your name we pray. And so I just want to open up, too, that as we spend the next moments in worship together, if you need prayer for anything, grab somebody in this room. Maybe you're struggling, maybe you feel like you're floundering, whatever it is, just grab somebody in this room and say, hey, would you pray for me? Would you pray with me that God would continue to reveal, or that God would show, or that I would continue to see this happen in my life? Or let's minister with each other and to each other. Let's worship.